Do you remember when Demon Slayer first introduced us to Muzan Kibutsuji, the seemingly untouchable villain that even the strongest of the Hashira couldn't defeat? There was a lot of hype surrounding this guy. Like, we were all waiting to see how the series would wrap up with the final battle against the most powerful demon of all. But there was a problem. And no, I'm not talking about the infamous drip mark issue. I'm talking about something much more important than that. Muzan Kibutsuji is the final villain of Demon Slayer. But looking back at it now, what makes him the final villain? To put it simply, Muzan never lived up to the expectations set for him. Now, it isn't to say that he's a bad villain. He accomplished his goal of being the main antagonist in the series. But after everything that came before, the final battle left a lot of fans disappointed. So today, I'm going to tell you why. Before we get into it though, make sure to leave a like rating on this video. It really helps me out. And if you're new here, then consider subscribing as well. I post weekly content on anime and manga. Thank you. In today's video, we going to look at 3 reasons why Muzan was so underwhelming as Demon Slayer's final villain. 1. No tragic backstory. Unlike every other Upper Moon, one of the things that made the Upper Moons such compelling villains was their tragic past that made them sympathetic despite their evil deeds. We saw this especially with Akaza, Doma, and Kokushibo, whose pasts were explored during their fight with the Hashira. Through flashbacks, we learned about their tragic past and what made them become the way they are. Muzan, however, didn't have any of this. He didn't have any tragic backstory that explained why he did what he did. Instead, he was just a selfish, petty man-child who wanted to live forever. And while that's fine, it just made him one-dimensional compared to his own subordinates. To lack of a real fight, until the very end, the Upper Moons had some of the best fights in the entire series, especially when they went head-to-head with a Hashira in a 1v1 duel. We got to see epic showdowns between Akaza and Giyu, Doma and Midori, and Kokushibo and Sanami, just to name a few. These fights were amazing because they pit the strongest of the Hashira against the strongest of the Upper Moons, but when it came to Muzan, we didn't get any of that. Instead, we just saw him run away for most of the battle and spam his annoying regeneration to avoid being hit. This made him feel more like an annoyance than an actual threat. And that's not what you want from your final villain. Remember, he's the guy that the entire series has been building up to. And to be honest, it wasn't until he was confronted by Tanjiro in his little hideout that he actually fought back. Even then, he still resorted to spamming his regeneration and summoning tentacles. Only when he was completely out of options did he finally decide to go all out. But by that point, it was too late. The damage had already been done. 3. He didn't have any real connection to going back to other popular shonen series. We often see the final villain have some sort of connection to the protagonist. Madara in Naruto was linked to the cycle of hatred that plagued the ninja world. And while he may not have liked the way things were going, he ultimately wanted to change it for the better. Aizen in Bleach manipulated Ichigo from the very beginning, using him as a pawn to achieve his own goals. But despite this, they had a deep connection that made their final fight all the more emotional. Muzan, however, had zero relationship with Tanjiro until the very end of the series, Everything that happened in the final battle could have been avoided if Muzan had simply stayed away from the human village where Tamayo and Ushiro lived. Sure, he had some involvement in the death of Nezuko's family, but that could have easily been resolved if he hadn't been so reckless. In the end, his actions only resulted in the deaths of innocent people and the suffering of those around him. And finally, the last straw was definitely his defeat. It just felt cheap. I mean, Muzan was finally defeated by using sun-breathing and a convenient poison, but it just kind of felt like an ass pull. Like, we were building up to this epic showdown between Tanjiro and Muzan for over 100 episodes, and when it finally happened, it just kind of fizzled out. Not to mention that Muzan didn't even have any final words. He just winned until he disintegrated. Now, despite all of these issues, I still think that Muzan is a decent villain. He was able to accomplish his main objective of being the series' main antagonist. However, after everything that came before, I just feel like the series could have wrapped up on a much higher note if his character had been handled differently. But that's just my opinion. What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And if you liked this video, then make sure to leave a like, rating, and subscribe if you're new here. I post weekly content on anime and manga, so if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then definitely consider subscribing. But anyways, that's gonna do it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye.